Hi, my name is Kay Sutha. I am a business strategist and I will be your host. In this podcast, I'll be getting raw, real, and relentless whilst interviewing successful entrepreneurs from all over the world who specialize in different aspects of business. We'll cover the 5 main pillars of business, which are sales, marketing, finance, operations, and leadership, but not forgetting mindset, live and digital events, plus much, much more. You'll gain insights, tips and tricks, and discover jaw-dropping actionable steps that you'll be able to put in place for your business right away. Guys, I have an amazing speaker for you today. Oh my goodness. I had a quick chat with him prior to him coming onto this episode, and I was like, oh my goodness, I need to have you on here. Our listeners need to hear what you do for them. And so our next speaker has actually discovered how to turn the table and use the bank's rules to your own benefit. He's the creator of an easy-to-use, one-of-a-kind finance app called CashMap and an 8-week coaching program called the CashMap Blueprint. He teaches people how to confidently strengthen their finances, increasing choices and security while mitigating risk and decreasing debt. His clients are able to pay off any debt in half the time, guys, half the time, and improve their personal relationships and enjoy creating their legacy. He has earned his master's in business administration and has 25 years of executive experience creating collaborative, high-performing teams across multiple disciplines. Please welcome Dennis Williams, creator and manager of CashMap Consulting LLC. Oh my goodness, Dennis, welcome to the show.
Hey, welcome. Thanks, and thank you for inviting me, Kay.
No worries. Now, I knew I had to have you on here. When you were telling me, what you got going on and how you actually help people and get them out of debt and, and of course, using their own bank's rules against them, right? Everybody would want to know how to do that. I had to have you on here when you told me that. And so before we get into the nitty-gritty, Dennis, I would love for you to tell my audience, a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you were doing before you stepped into business.
Certainly, the bulk of my career had actually been in healthcare. Most recently, before I launched my 100% of my time on CashMap, was actually working for a pharmacy software company as executive vice president for software development and testing. Prior to that, I've held a couple of positions as director and vice president of finance. And then within healthcare, I've held numerous positions from clinic administrator to managing branch operations in Hawaii. So that gives you a little bit of background about myself. I spent 27 years in Hawaii. Wow. And so from that perspective, that still is home. That's where I raise my kids. I have 3 kids that I'm proud to say, are all doing extremely well and are very people focused and making a difference in people's lives.
Awesome. I love that. And clearly, the way you live life, the way you help people, your businesses, you have actually filtered that down to your kids, right? And now they're doing very similar things and helping people around the world too. That's amazing, Dennis. I love that. Now, I heard, a little bird told me, Dennis, that you have the ability to build confidence, gain clarity, and a sense of relief. Now, could you tell our audience a little bit about that?
Yes. It's really quite amazing that most of us, as we go through life, we just kind of go from day to day without clearly understanding the impact that small things can have on a compounding scale. And we don't usually ask ourselves the question, what is it that's most important to me over the next 5, 10, 15 years that if I don't achieve, I'll be upset?
Right.
And so when there's clarity, then confidence is a natural follow-up.
But you know what, Dennis? Being clear, is always the best way to go about things, and you don't know what the next steps are unless you are clear. But what about those people that struggle with learning how to be clear and don't really know what they want, or, trying to follow a path and trying to just figure it all out themselves? What would you suggest to those people?
Most people have not asked that question that I asked you, which was, what brings you the greatest joy? What is it that you find that brings you the greatest satisfaction? They never ask that question. They never actually grasp the idea that if they answer that question, they can now begin mapping the steps of what they have to do in order to get from where they are to where they want to be. They never pull the pieces together and identify, well, how much is that going to cost? And when do I want them to be able to actually see that happen?
Right.
And so consequently, they don't break things down into I encourage people to break it down into a day by day.
Okay.
So that you actually have something to hold yourself accountable, and ideally being able to teach people if you need an accountability coach. The question I always ask people is this one: what's the difference between a coach and a nag?
Okay, so what is the difference?
It's a real simple answer. A coach, you give someone permission. A nag, you did not. You can have two people tell you exactly the same things. You'll appreciate it from one person.
Right.
And the other person, it's like, get out of my face.
Okay, I see.
And by breaking things down into small little pieces, it does two things. First of all, it gives you something that as you do the little things, you can begin to celebrate.
Okay.
Because you've actually met a series of small steps. And then when you look back, all of a sudden you're on this path. And this applies whether or not it's personal or in business. It's the same exact process.
Okay.
Strategic planning is nothing more in a business than mapping out over a week in and week out basis of what you're going to do to go from where you are versus where you want to be. And in the CashMap blueprint, what we're really doing is we're taking that, and that truly is the power of compounding. We're giving people a visual of what it looks like that they never thought they could do before.
I see. So Dennis, what I'm hearing from you right now is basically you're allowing your clients to sit down and really think about what they really want, because they've never done that before. And after doing that, it just has a domino effect.
Yes.
And you're able to take certain steps and progress to whatever it is that you want to achieve by doing the very first important, vital thing and just thinking about getting clear as to, what do I want? What do I want to achieve? And it's so funny because a lot of people don't do that, and that's the last thing on their mind when they're trying to get clear. So I love how you've picked up on that and you make people sit down and find out, what it is that they really want.
Well, that's okay. That's another important point I have to clarify. I don't make them.
Oh, okay.
I don't make them, just like the other thing I don't do. I don't use the word budget.
But isn't that important when you're trying to deal with your finances and budget for certain things you want to do?
Well, as a finance person, I spend half my time always looking at actuals against budgets. And you're right. But if I tell you the word budget, that's a downer for most people, that you're taking something away.
Okay. But so it has a negative connotation to it.
It has a negative connotation. But instead, what we do is we create a savings mindset, because if I now see where I'm going and the impact of a choice I'm making, what happens is the client comes back and says, wow, what if I did this? What if I did that? Oh, I don't really need to do that. Oh, what if I added some additional income here? Oh, what if I added this? They're budgeting. But I never used the word.
Do you know
and now it's sustainable.
Do you know what I like about this, Dennis? is that I'm hearing that not only are you helping them with their finances, but there seems to be a lot of mindset stuff involved in this as well.
Well, it's entirely mindset, okay?
Wow.
Because finances, a financial statement is actually a reflection of a company's culture.
Right.
It's not the other way around. All a
Mm,
financial statement is capturing what happened,
right. I love that.
right? So if you want to change the outcome of your financial statement, it starts with changing how you're thinking.
Ah, interesting.
And if you
Okay.
change how you're thinking, you can create new opportunities, bring security, mitigate risk without feeling as if someone's taking something away from you.
Okay. So, all right. I like that. I love that idea and that whole concept that you got going here. So, I've got a question for you then in that case. So, someone that is in a lot of debt, say 50,000 to $100,000 debt, and all they're getting is these red bills come through the door that their payment is now overdue. Someone like that, their mindset is in constant worry as to how they're going to pay their next bill. How would you get someone that's in that state out of it and to think more positively?
Well, I think there are a couple of items to consider, and just a little bit of history.
Okay.
In England, when it came to home ownership, originally there was no interest charged in a mortgage.
Okay.
The building societies in England were just people in the neighborhood who would get together, put money in a pot, keep putting it in until everyone in that, what I would call a hui in Hawaii, had their home, and then it was terminated. And during those years, if somebody charged interest, the Catholic Church in the early days basically said, you'd be condemned to eternal hell.
Oh, wow.
So the idea of, and the reason why I bring this up, the idea of paying interest is a relatively new phenomenon. In Islam, they don't charge interest at all to this day as a part of their banking. And interest really began being charged when development in the New World began, in which they needed more credit markets.
Right.
So I say that from this perspective. The first thing that we learn to do is banks make money by leveraging the balances in our checking and savings accounts.
Right.
And then making money and then paying us a rich 0.1%, if anything at all.
Right. Okay.
Right? So if someone has debt, the first thing that we do is, number one, you need to be able to ensure that what you're making after you pay the bills, you have something left. So that's requirement number one. Then number two is we teach people how to use the bank's strategy to dramatically pay less interest just in the same way that they do.
Oh.
And in that process, like for example, here in North America, the typical cardholder or household has almost $6,900 in credit card debt.
Oh, wow.
Now, if you had a household that only has $200 left after they pay their bills, and the minimum payment is about $137, it'll take them 45 years and they're going to pay $67,000 in interest. But using the bank system with a small line of credit that they would pay off that card, they could have the whole thing paid off in 2 years. And even if it was at 24%, they wouldn't pay more than $560 in interest.
Ah, okay. That's an interesting perspective to have there. Okay. So that's one of the things that you teach your clients, but I'm guessing there's a lot more to it in your program, a lot more where you can actually save.
Yes, and so you figure your listeners who have a business line of credit.
Right.
The classic mistake that people make is they wait until the bank sends them the bill every month. And so debt sits on that line of credit all month long,
right,
racking up the daily interest charge.
Yes.
Meanwhile, their cash is sitting in the checking account doing nothing, where what you could do is just simply say two simple things. When the revenue comes in, move it into the line of credit immediately.
Right.
Second, where possible, like you can't do it for payroll, your employees won't appreciate this. You shift the timing you pay your bills to the last day of the billing cycle for the bank. So now you're keeping the daily interest charge low all month long. It's just a matter of timing.
I see.
And you do that repeatedly, you will dramatically pay less interest.
Okay, so that means that you have to make sure you have these certain tasks in your diary to make sure it gets done and not forgotten about. So you got to train up and get into that habit. Is that right?
Yes and no. I mean, Kay, wouldn't you prefer sitting down one time of the month and paying all your bills?
I would rather not do it at all, to be fair. I would rather get someone else to do it.
Well, that's even better. You're correct.
Right.
Or a nice donor who would cover your costs and don't have to worry about it at
all. Right. But yeah, I mean, once a month, I guess, would be beneficial to just go through your finances and pay the bills and do all of that. And I guess it's not asking for too much, rather than doing it day in, day out.
Yeah. If I just rescheduled it, which most organizations will do, my previous banker, when I told her this once, she looked at me and said, I didn't know you could do that. So she gave me the list of all her vendors that she uses and said, go call them and come back and tell me what you find. There was no problem. There was no cost. But again, we just don't know.
Yes, you don't know what you don't know in the end. And that's what you are there to teach people, right?
Correct.
So I have got another question for you. Now, you have touched on this earlier, certain aspects, but tell us a little bit about, certain highlights, trainings that you've had to actually make you qualified as an expert in this niche.
Well, there's two things. I don't know that there's anyone that teaches the detail that I do.
Oh.
When I first stumbled into this, Kay, and my banker invited her CPA, and he heard me do the presentation, he looked at her and said, you know what? He's right, and we're not taught this.
Wow.
My banker, here in the US, they use a term called the average daily balance. I think in England, you use the daily interest charge.
Right, okay.
But her comment was, well, we've heard about the term all the time, but nobody ever stops and talks to us about the implications in the way we manage our cash. So I have a master's in business with an emphasis in finance. And I've certainly, again, I've held fiscal positions, but this element of what I'm talking about isn't taught. If you're fortunate enough to work with someone who understands it, then good for you. But for me, it's a 10-year journey of testing scenarios and seeing firsthand, thousands of scenarios. And when you do testing in software, you pick it up.
It's crazy to me that CPAs aren't even taught this. So this is totally your own strategy and things that you've experienced and come up with that isn't taught anywhere else. And you're the only one that teaches people this. And it sounds like that not only is it needed, it's basic stuff, but people haven't really come to terms or figured out that there's this other way of doing things.
I mean, and there, in all honesty, there are other products on the market.
Okay.
Like, for example, a bank might offer you a first position line of credit that allows you to take the concept and use it, but they don't teach you how to maximize the experience.
Right. Okay.
So I don't want your listeners to think that there's not other people that are doing that offers products. I would say, though, that what's really unique about CashMap Consulting is that you get to create your own spending scenario, see the impact of your decisions over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You get to include what return you're expecting on your money.
Right.
And then literally see the effect of your choices. And we are the only one that have it as an app.
Okay.
It's
And
both Google Play and the Apple Store.
right. Okay. And you've also mentioned a couple of times, the way things work in the UK and US. So I know they have different regulations, policies. Do you help people all over the world, or is it just specified to certain countries?
I have had customers in Canada. So Canada, of course, is much more close, is it being a commonwealth of the United Kingdom.
Right.
Right. So I'm certainly very familiar with the Canadian system. But by and large, when you're looking at these kinds of banking policies, they're kind of like in one big group. And so I've not really seen anything that's dramatically different that would cause me to leave me scratching my head.
Okay. All right.
So CashMap, it was designed, I designed it using US dollars, but it doesn't matter what the currency is, it's the same thing.
Okay, so the process is exactly the same.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you're entering your numbers, it's going to be based on your currency. So it doesn't, it doesn't matter that, that it was based on a US product.
Right. Okay. Got it. And so do you have a principle that you could teach our audience today that they can relate to and immediately apply when it comes to, looking at their finances?
There's two things.
Okay.
The first one is, after you know where you want to be and what's going to bring you the greatest joy and the opportunity you want to pursue. So the two items would be, number one, after you know what's most important to you, write down what it's going to cost.
Okay.
And I've created a product called These Are My Dreams that's free, that you can get from the website, that kind of walks you through the process.
Right.
But then second, realize that small changes bring big results. So the timing in which you put your money in the bank and the dates and the times you choose to pay your bills matter.
Right.
And so using that as a small line of credit as a wealth building tool is what we end up teaching, so that people can, and the application shows you the compounding impact that will have over many years.
Okay, I see. All right. So make sure what it is that you want to purchase. You've got the prices, and then also look at the time scale as to when you can purchase them, so it doesn't so you're not paying more interest in your bank. Is that what you're getting at?
A little bit different. When you started your business, you knew what you wanted to do and why.
Right.
And you knew what you wanted to achieve by when.
Right.
People need to do that.
Okay.
That's number one. Because once you do that, and then you have your list of priorities, when it comes time to making purchases today,
right,
you can say, well, am I willing to push off this thing I said was really important because of something spontaneous I see right now?
Right. Okay.
Now all of a sudden, you're not giving up anything because you've brought your future into your present.
Right. I see.
So that's how your transformation begins to a savings mindset. And then second, understand that the dates that you pay bills,
Mm-hmm.
it matters.
Right.
And CashMap enables you to be able to see the impact that will have over a long period of time.
Got it. Okay, that's interesting. And I love those two concepts, because I guess a lot of people would just they get an idea, I want to buy this, and just buy without really actually looking at it, you know. And so yeah, I like that idea. Now I've got to ask this, Dennis. You got to share with us a few stories that you've had with recent clients, and tell us, what their results and outcome have been.
Well, I just got a testimonial on Friday.
Oh, okay.
How's that? So I'll read it.
All right.
The impact of CashMap has been a transformational experience. Dennis is disarmingly transparent, funny, and is a great coach. Seeing that we can simply and easily achieve what's most important to us created a savings mentality that we didn't think was possible.
Mm-hmm.
We're on track to pay off our mortgage and all our debts in just 12 years, and we'll save over $250,000.
Wow.
The value of what we've learned is far greater than the cost of the course.
Wow. So tell me this, how much debt are these people in or were in, just so I can get a comparison, how much they're saving and how much debt they've got going on?
Well, this particular client just went through a refinancing.
Right.
That is going to be over $800,000.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So there's that plus additional credit card debt.
I see. Okay. So it's almost going towards $1 million.
Yep.
Right. Okay. And then within 12 years, they were able to pay all that off, but save $250,000 on top.
Yep.
Wow. Crazy.
So by being able to accelerate paying it off early, they will have over $250,000 additional dollars to divert toward opportunities.
Yeah.
And mitigating risk in the event that there's a downturn. In the US, we have had, since 1795, 48 recessions.
No way.
One every 4.7 years.
Wow.
And virtually, they're all the result of the government wanting to spur economic growth. It creates excess demand, drives up prices, and then something happens where we end up going into a recession, and there's this collateral damage, which is our household finance.
Right.
So by putting these principles to work, you're mitigating risk, you're creating opportunity, and you're putting yourself in a situation so when these things happen, it won't wipe you out.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Now, if they went a different route to get this all paid off, right, and they didn't learn the specifics from yourself, how long would it have taken or will take them to pay this off if they went down the normal route?
Well, first of all, it's in the US, the typical mortgage is 30 years.
Okay.
Now, what the banks will encourage you to do is something called biweekly, which is one additional payment every year. Well, I have a hard time getting excited about that because all that does is reduce the payoff time to 27 and a half years.
Okay. So not very much.
Yeah. Small change.
Yeah.
And the beauty of this is you're using this strategy, but you didn't change your spending.
Right.
Right?
Right. So you're not depriving yourself of anything.
Nope.
Wow, I love that. Now, Dennis, where can people, I know at this point they're thinking, how can I get hold of this guy, right? I need to speak to Dennis right now. So where can people go to receive more additional free support if they want to kind of find out a little bit more about you, or even contact you?
My email address is dennis@cashmapconsulting.com.
Okay.
My website is cashmapapp.com.
Awesome.
And I also have a YouTube channel called CashMap, that's one word, and then app.
Great, fantastic. And guys, the links that Dennis have just mentioned, they will all be in the show notes below. So if you didn't catch it on the video, or if you're listening to it on the podcast, then make sure you go down, scroll down and get the links from there. Thank you so much, Dennis, for coming onto the show. It has been amazing to have you on here. I've learned so much myself. And I know there's more for people to learn out of it. Save that money, guys. Make sure you don't deprive yourself. Pay off your debts. You know, if you are struggling in this area, then make sure you go ahead and contact Dennis, because he will most definitely be able to help you out. Thank you again, Dennis, for coming onto the show.
Thank you so much, and best of luck to you, and chat again soon.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and listening to Uncensored Society Podcast. All resources mentioned throughout the episode will be added to the show notes, and you'll be able to find them at the bottom as you scroll down. Don't forget to go ahead and subscribe and leave a review in iTunes. Thank you once again.